There is one common trait I've witnessed firsthand that persists among agency owners that scale fast, scaling above hundreds of thousands of dollars in the first few months of starting. And I will reveal that common trait to you during step 7, but for now, I'm going to show you the 7 steps to hire, train, and keep appointment setters that'll book you anywhere from 4 to 7 meetings every single day, guaranteed. The first step to hire, train, and keep setters is understand why your setters might not do the work they're supposed to. When starting to hire and manage people, we need to understand first why people do something and why they don't, more importantly. It's because of 5 main pillars. It's either they didn't know that they had to do it in the first place, they didn't know how to do it, why to do it, when to do it by, and pillar 5, the most important by far, is that there's a blockage somewhere. So if we want to make sure we motivate our employees to work and book meetings every single day and book us 4 to 7 meetings guaranteed, then we have to make sure all of these 5 pillars are in check. Otherwise, it won't even matter that we hired them in the first place. Step 2 is we want to determine the payment structure for our employees. When hiring setters to book 4 to 7 meetings a day, it's important that we have a good payment structure in plan. There are 3 main payment structures that I recommend. But first of all, I recommend paying them through Wise or PayPal. The first payment structure I recommend is pay per close. I recommend this method in the beginning because you don't have a ton of funds to work with, and it makes you want to be better as a salesman so you can pay your guys, right? And you typically want to pay them anywhere between 5 to 10 to 12% of the closed deal value. So let's say you charge $4,000 for a PIF, then you would pay them anywhere between $200 and $400. Now, the only thing that matters with this payment structure is that you make sure that they understand exactly how many appointments you usually get, exactly what your close rate is, and how many calls you usually takes to close someone, right? It's really important that we fairly compensate. Back in the beginning, in step 1, we understood that they might not work because they don't have a reason why to work, right? And if they're not getting paid enough, then they won't work for you. And the final tip for this payment structure is that make sure you have a spreadsheet connecting you and your appointment setter so they can see exactly how each call went, and even call recordings to make sure that they know that there's money coming in, right? The second payment structure is a pay per qualified show. Now, with this method, you want to compensate anywhere between $50 to $100. This method is really great because it aligns the incentives completely, and they're incentivized to put in the most effort possible on each call. Otherwise, they won't get paid for a meeting. However, with this method, you have to make sure that they know exactly what you mean when you say a qualified show. Otherwise, there will be a ton of confusion down the line, and they won't really want to stick around with you. For example, if you own a roofing agency, some qualifications that I used in the past are if they make over $1 million a year, if they show up to the meeting and they're not on the job site, if they're not in a car, or they have the full time length to even just stay on the whole call, right? These are some great qualifications you can use and prove to your setter so you're not forking out hundreds of dollars and you're getting the most value per meeting. The third and final payment structure is the one I typically recommend. Now, with this method, you want to pay per appointment, okay? So pay per appointment or pay per qualified appointment. So what this means is that you'd pay your setter anywhere between $20 and $40 every time they book you an appointment. Now, what's great about this is that your setters are directly incentivized to work as much as they can because they want to fork in as many meetings as they can, and you are incentivized because you want to get more closes under the way. Otherwise, you're going to be forking out all this money and not getting much in return. With paid ads, it's typical to pay anywhere between $60 to $130 per qualified meeting, and so paying $20 to $40, especially if it's for a qualified meeting from a setter, is not too bad. Now, that was step 2. Let's move on to step 3. Step 3 is actually finding people to hire. Now, there are 3 main ways to do this, the second and third being way more important than the first. The first one is finding them in groups, whether that be school groups, Discord servers, Instagram and business Discord servers, or hustling Discord servers, or even any school groups, sales groups, SMMA groups, really anywhere where people are looking to hustle. Now, I typically send a message to multiple channels every single day, so that way we can get as many prospects in the door as possible. So here's an exact message of exactly what you could say to these groups. Everything in blue is what I would typically say to a group. Now, it's important in this message that you make sure you go over your proper payment structure. So after you have that payment structure figured out in step 2, we can move on to step 3, implement the payment structure. And you want to go over your payment structure as well as put an application link. Now, it's really important that you do this because otherwise there's going to be a ton of people just flying in your DMs, but it's way better to have an application link so that everyone that wants to funnel through and potentially work with you has the ability to fill out an application. Now, another thing you can do as a bonus is message people in a similar group or community that you're already in. Now, sometimes what I say is, "What's good, brother? I'm currently on the lookout for an appointment sitter to join our team," etc., etc. And I've gotten so many of these messages from my work friends as well as others, and I do the same thing for when I'm looking for people. So this is a really great bonus and a great way to find people. Now the second method, and arguably one of the most important, is using Upwork. Now Upwork is really great to find VAs, especially ones that are out of country. But for whatever reason, it's really common to get your account restricted. So if you lose that, just revert to the third method and it'll probably do you way more justice. So what you want to do is go to upwork.com, create an account specifying that you're looking to find talent, and then create a job offer. So this is the exact Upwork job offer that you want to put out there. For your headline, you want to say you're looking for an experienced appointment setter, someone that's required to call engaged businesses, appointment setting, calling, communication, sales, scope is medium, length more than 6 months, required experience expert, location worldwide, hourly rate $20 to $40. And this isn't likely, right? But it really attracts talent, and that's what we're looking for. Here's an exact job description that you can put and copy and paste directly into it. What's genius is that when you're looking for talent on Upwork, that you make sure that you have like some kind of side note in there. So for example, side note, if you put the number 20 in your application, we'll know that you've taken the time to read this whole application. For the screening questions in the Upwork application, there are 10 main questions I recommend asking, but the 10th one is by far the most important. Here are some screening questions I recommend asking. What time zone are you in? Are you introverted, extroverted? Are you able to take calls for 3 to 6 hours a day? How long have you been calling or setting appointments for? What attracted you to this opportunity in the first place? What computer do you have? But let's move down to question 10, because this is by far the most important question you have in any application or interview process. Please record and upload a 1 to 2 minute loom to introduce yourself and explain why you're applying. This is a really great qualifier, because if people aren't willing to do this, then you know that they won't be good working for you. But if they are, however, then that means they might be a great candidate. The third and final method to find people is using Facebook ads. Now this is the way that I typically do it, and so I'm going to show you my exact Facebook campaign setup just so you can do the same. Just to recap, right now we are on step 3, finding people. Stay tuned to step 7, because that will be the key to scaling. And this is the third and final method of finding people. If you do this process correctly, you can get an applicant for 91 cents. I was spending $50 a day on these ads, and I got 140 applicants in literally less than 2.5 days. To set up this ad campaign, what we want to do is go ahead and convert with instant forms, super simple. And the key here is to look for locations like Colombia and Mexico. Now these are really great locations, because you can get a ton of cheap leads, but all you need to do is make sure you find someone that has the English speaking capabilities that we are looking for. For placements, all I did is Facebook feed, that's it. And here's what the actual ad looks like. Super simple. English speaking appointment setters. Join our team while working from home. Remote appointment setter from USA needed. And then make sure you have your niche in there. But this is by far the best method to find people for appointment setting. Here's my exact ad copy that I would run when I ran this. And the trick is to make sure you ask a bunch of questions in the actual lead form. For example, how fluent are you in English? How many years of experience do you have as an appointment setter or cold caller? Can you work an 8-hour shift? What industries did you work in? Do you have a good internet speed? Contact information. But most importantly, this step here. Okay, so what this is this is a link to my actual interview form, which I use ClickUp, but you can use Google Docs or Google Forms or whatever you use. But this is a really important step. Now I recommend asking similar screening questions in this Facebook lead form, similar to what we went over before, including the Loom if you don't want to go ahead and have an outside application. But I recommend having the Facebook lead form forward to an outside application, with the outside application having those 10 screening questions, including the Loom, and that's how you know that someone's serious. Because I guarantee you a ton of those leads, maybe like 50 to 100 of them, didn't fill out anything on the actual form itself. They just submitted the lead form. Step 4 is one of the most important steps in the entire process of hiring, training, and keeping setters. And what it is interviewing. Now we want to get anywhere between 5 and 20 people that we can actually interview. A couple weeks after you post the applications, add every single applicant that you're thinking of moving forward to the interview process to the hiring bench. Now what the hiring bench is a Google spreadsheet that I made to basically go over candidates, application questions. You got to put all of your questions in here, the responses, scorecards about the interview, as well as whether or not they're moving forward, a test assignment for them, and how to actually make a decision when hiring someone. So here's the general interview flow. Once you send out an invitation, they're in the hiring bench, you're thinking, okay, this guy might be pretty good. Here's how the flow of the interview will go. You want to say hi, you want to loosen them up, some small talk, go chill, anything that's cool in the resume, all that. find out that they have a family, and then you want to make sure you set frame. Just like a sales call, you want to set frame. Say, thanks for showing interest in the position of our company. On this call, I will spend about 10 to 15 minutes asking you some questions to get to know you better. And then after that, I'm happy to answer any questions you've got. So here are the main questions you want to ask. Questions along the line of, what stuck out to you about this position that made you reach out? Or do you have any other businesses or side gigs? What previous experience do you have in this field? What are your goals? What are your interests? All these, and you just really, really want to avoid cookie cutter answers. Like, cookie cutter answers are the death of all applicants. We want to find someone that's out of the box, right? Someone that can think for themselves, someone that can answer and be unique. Here's an optional power move that I really, really recommend, but it's not required. You could say, if you advance to the next step, we will ask you in setting up some references with bosses, all right? So I'm curious, like, what do you think they'll say? What are some good things that they'll say? So you can actually say that you're going to go ahead and set up a call with some of their references and bosses, previous bosses, and you don't actually have to do it, but you could just ask them what they would say, right? Because this will get them in the frame of mind of, oh wow, so yeah, this is serious. Some extra questions I recommend asking at the end are, what's your superpower? Any books, mentors, podcasts you resonate with? Because when hiring someone, we want to invest in the person, right? So we need to focus on their inputs because their inputs will equal their outputs, right? Especially if you want to be with them long term. My favorite and final question is, what makes you the best candidate for this position over anyone else? So make sure you confirm the pay rate as well, and then hop off the call and go ahead and make an offer. Now, all you want to say at the end of the interview, just be like, thanks for your time, we'll be in touch. All right, super simple. Don't be like, oh, you're hired. Don't do that, okay? A lot of people make this mistake. But we're only going to do a few interviews because I will say having 3 to 4 really good appointment setters is better than having 10 to 20 bad ones, right? So we want to make sure we can train them and keep them. And so make sure you get about 3 to 4 applicants that you decide to make a decision on to move forward in the process. And you're probably asking, what's the next step in the process? And now we're going to go through step 5, is decision making and hiring. Okay, step 5 is arguably one of the most important steps because hiring someone is an investment, and not only an investment in a person, right? So we need to make sure that they're the right person for the job, otherwise we can't hire them. So when looking to move forward with someone, we want to take about 3 to 4 of the best applicants from the entire process and decide them on moving forward. To actually do this, what I do is go through the interview call that we had together that I recorded with Fathom. And what I go ahead and do is go through the hiring bench and give them a score on all of the interview questions that they answered. Now, when I do that, I also ask whether or not they were excited and they're flexible with their pay rate. And if they were all of these things, and including on time, right? If they're all of these things and it was pretty good, then I decide whether or not they're moving forward in the process. Now, if they're moving forward in the process, then this takes them to arguably the most important step of all, which is the actual test assignment. For these applicants, the few people that move forward in that moved forward in the process, we want to go ahead and shoot them over a test assignment. And it's really, really important that we compensate them for this test assignment. All right, so we're gonna shoot over and send a test assignment and make it brief. Now, with this test assignment, here's an example of what I would do. This is all of the details you would give them. Obviously, at the start, you say, thanks for your time. We decided to move forward with the process, and we want this done within 3 to 5 days of it being assigned. As soon as you get this email, it is assigned. Now, what I recommend, regardless of the position, is to have them cold call. So even if it's a cold SMS caller or some outbound dialer or just something like that, we want to make sure that they get tested, and the best way to do that is by cold calling. So give them a few information and a lead list to call, and that's it. And just see what they do with it. Because if they decide to ask you questions about the test assignment, and that's how you know they're going to be a pretty good employee to actually have, if they're asking questions. If they don't, and they just do the job flawlessly, then they're still good. If they don't know how to do it and they don't ask questions, then that's how you know it's someone you don't want. Now, in the hiring bench, I go ahead and fill out the test assignment details, and I give them an overall score. Now, if they move on after this process and they pass the test assignment, what I do now is go through the new hire checklist. Now, this is the final aspect of step 5, which is hiring and making a decision. So to do this, what we want to do is go through these questions. You want to ask yourself these exact questions. Can I see this person performing the role successfully? Why? Can I see this person being a good fit culturally? Why? Can I see this person moving up with our team long term into a different position possibly? Can I offload more work to them over a long enough time? Do they demonstrate honesty and integrity with their answers? Do they know what they want? Do they have people skills? Are their income goals in alignment with what the position will provide, right? Like lower goals, especially if they have lower goals, it's not good. We want people to have higher goals. Did they book meetings with the test assignment? This is really important. If they booked 0 meetings out of 200 cold calls, and that's how you know that they might not be a good fit for you. How long did it take to actually make the 200 dials? We want to make sure that they're efficient. Not only are they booking meetings, but they're actually booking meetings with efficiency and booking in calls, because this should take 4 to 6 hours tops, no longer than that. Because in the test assignment, it's important that they log their hours so you can pay them accordingly. And if they say it took them 12 hours, and that's how you know that they might not be a good fit. They're open-minded, they're coachable, they're excited to learn from you and grow. Question 12, one of the most important, do I want to manage this person? And then question 13, the final question, what does my gut say? At the end of the day, you want to make sure it's always a gut feeling. You just feel in your gut that you're like, okay, I'm going to go with this person, or okay, I'm not going to go with this person. Once we've found our applicant and we have someone that we want to hire, what we want to do is get them on a hiring call. Go ahead on that call and actually extend them an offer to join you and your team. Go ahead and make sure and confirm the payment structure and if everything's good. Then ask them, is this something that you'd like to move forward with? If they say no, find out what's keeping them from saying yes. And if reasonable, you can give them a due date to respond by if you have other people waiting. If yes, then awesome. You can go ahead and take them on, and you want to give them a few details. Here are the exact details you want to give them right on the hiring call. You want to tell them when the start date for the position is. You want to tell them the deadline for signing the agreement. You want to tell them that you're going to be setting them a boot camp their way. And finally, the most important thing to make sure they're prepared is you want to schedule one more meeting after they went through the boot camp to go ahead and go through next steps. Now, it's important that you do this on this call so that there's some kind of deadline for that boot camp to be completed by. Once again, step 7 is arguably the most important, and it's the key to scaling your business. But first, let's go over step 6. Now that we're done decision making and hiring at step 5, step 6 is training and actually keeping them. So now that we've decided who we want to hire and we've given them a verbal offer, we want to send them an offer online as well. So to do this, we can go ahead and send an offer letter. So here's a simple email you can use to extend them that offer, and go ahead and also send them the agreement as well. This is a template of an agreement here that you can send. With these, don't overthink them too much. Just make sure you have the compensation in there and you have the terms as well as your names. Now, it's really important that we train our VAs. So now that you understand from step 1 the fundamentals of why someone might not work when you tell them to, let's go over a boot camp. Now, it's really important that they feel trained and feel prepared and they're ready for the position. And so this is going to be our ramp up process. All right, so what we're going to go ahead and do is create a simple boot camp for them to train. Now, to do this, what I recommend doing is going ahead and creating a simple boot camp, right? So welcome them to the team, remind them of the compensation, because you want to pay them for this. You know, they don't want to do work for free. So it's really important that you pay them for the boot camp, for the hours that they spent. So this is basically supposed to be completed over the next few days, even though this is going to be one video that you show them. What you want to do is send them a recording link, and the recording link will be basically going through this document, like similar to how I do in some of these videos. And you want to go into the growth, culture, and expectations. So first of all, what is an A-player setter? Your values, your position breakdown, your commission structure, your payment structure, your daily expectations, the end of day report, and the morning jumpstart call. 2 really important aspects to keeping your employees, because what you need to consider is that to keep your employees, the key is communication, as well as the KPIs to hit, and also monthly performance reports that you should do, do's and don'ts, SOPs, industry knowledge that they might need to know, product knowledge, spreadsheets and how to use them, additional trainings, and finally another assessment. So this whole bootcamp process is something that you want to create and record. You can send to them before they actually start. So the final assessment here is actually have them do whatever the position entails. If you're ever asking yourself why your employees aren't doing what you want them to, remember to just refer back to this video to the first step that we went over. Now that we're done with step 6, let's go over step 7, which is the key to scaling efficiently and effectively, like me and everyone around me has. The key to scaling is delegation. Now, I'm sure you were expecting this at the start of the video, but it's really important that we delegate properly and we remove ourselves from roles that are low leverage. Now, if we're able to delegate properly in every single step of the way, then there is no limit to how far we can go. So if I have any tip or advice or anything for you in this video, it's to delegate as soon as you can, but do it properly, right? This is a bulletproof way to hire VAs and appointment setters, and you can replicate this process for anything you're hiring out. Just make sure that you use this right and you actually keep your employees, you compensate them fairly. Don't hire people that you aren't going to pay and compensate, and invest in people long term, because investing in people will pay you dividends in the future. Thank you for watching the 7 steps to hire, train, and keep appointment setters for a long time that can book you anywhere between 4 to 7 appointments a day. If you want to know how we help current and aspiring agency owners scale from zero, go ahead and check it out in the description below. All right, peace out.